Hello everyone, Jacquie Edwards here. Thank you for joining me today. I am in my car, as you can see, but I'm super excited because actually my car, well, there's a whole bunch of posts in there, but usually it's absolutely chock full of towels and bedding and stuff for all of my houses, but it is completely empty at the moment, which is absolutely amazing. I just had a meeting, my first meeting since I've come back from my honeymoon with my property manager, and I've just passed over all of the stuff to her because I had been doing some Airbnbs with our HMOs. So I had been washing some of the bedding and some of the linens because we were just trying it out a little bit over the summer. So I didn't set up a massive system for it. So I was just washing some of it myself, but we aren't really doing that over the winter. It's not super popular anyway. So I've just handed all of that back to her, and my car is nice and clean and empty now. So that feels amazing. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. So today I wanted to talk about heating for my HMOs. So I've had quite a few questions over the last couple of days about how I kind of manage the heating for my HMOs, how the costs for HMOs work. Hello, Daniel. And one of the questions I had first of all to start off with was, can you charge your tenants for extra for heating if they go over on their bills or if their heating costs get really high? And it is pretty much a gray area, but basically the answer is no. So unless my brief understanding is unless you're kind of like a registered energy provider, you can't charge people for kind of gas and electricity if there's not a meter for it. So because none of my HMOs have separate meters for each individual bedroom, I can't really enforce my fair use clause that I have for my tenants that says, if you go over 400 pounds a month, I'm going to charge all of you extra. So I say that in my contracts, but technically, I think at the end of the day, if somebody really pushed back, I wouldn't be able to charge them for it. But luckily, I've never had to, because we do kind of watch our utility uses, and we have a couple of ways that we just manage things to make sure that nothing gets out of control. So one of the kind of key things that we do, I'd say from starting, is we do take meter readings every month as part of our monthly maintenance review. I used to when I started, but now my property manager does. So every month we go and just kind of do a quick checklist just to make sure things are looking good in the property. And as part of that, we do our meter readings. All of those are put into a spreadsheet for me, and I just keep an eye on, is there a house that's starting to use way more gas or way more electricity all of a sudden? Now, I would expect them to kind of go up in the cooler months. So once it starts heading into winter, I do expect to see an increase in both heating and electricity because it's also darker this time of year, so they are going to be using lights a little bit more often. But I wouldn't expect to see huge jumps, especially in electric. And that helps me just kind of identify where problems might be starting to arise. So things that have happened in the past was we had one property and the electric bill was all of a sudden just like skyrocketing. And so I sent them a message and I said, hey, your electric usage is getting really close to our kind of fair usage limits. You really need to keep an eye on it. Let me know, is there a problem somewhere in the house? What is it that you think it could be? And one of the tenants wrote back and said, yeah, we're using one of those electric kind of storage heater things. And I said, okay, well, that's going to be why your electric bill is huge. Why are you using that? And they're like, oh, because it's really cold in our room. I said, well, why don't you just turn the heating up? So we do give tenants full access to their heating, so they can turn their heating up. They can adjust the temperature whenever they need to. So that basically solved that problem. And it solved it before our bills got out of control. So we were able to just kind of watch it and monitor kind of changes month by month. Another thing that we do to make sure that the tenants don't just crank it up to 40 degrees in their house and never turn it back down is we have Hive thermostats in all of our properties. In all of our HMOs. Now, a Hive thermostat, there's many different kinds. So basically a smart thermostat that connects to the Wi-Fi and to an app on your mobile phone. And that allows both the tenant, they have, again, full control over their heating. They can adjust the thermostat, but it also allows us to adjust the thermostat. So we can set programs up, so we can set a schedule for when the heating goes up and down throughout the day. Normally we set it so it kind of goes up in the morning when everybody's waking up, and then it decreases during the day, and then it goes back up when they come home from work. We never turn it off completely. I think that's what starts to cause lots of condensation problems in the winter time, is if you turn your heating off completely. So we never let it go below kind of 16, 17 degrees, just so that the house isn't heating up, cooling off, heating up, cooling off all the time. So yeah, so we use the Hive is British gas. And again, tenants have full control, but every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, my assistant logs into the Hive system for each property, and she sets everything back to the schedule. So maybe on Monday, one of the tenants decides to stay home from work that day. They're not feeling very well. They want to turn the temperature up. That's perfectly fine. That's great. They should do that. But then Tuesday they go to work, but they haven't turned the heating back down. So now Tuesday it's on 35 degrees all day. So Wednesday, my assistant logs in and sets everything back to the schedule. So that way it's not on, 30 degrees for months and months or weeks and weeks or days and days at a time. So we just keep an eye on things that way. We do, if the, tenants need a different schedule, all they have to do is email us and we can program that all in on our app. Another really nice thing it helps us with is when a tenant calls and reports that, the heating's not working or the boiler's not working or the hot water's not working, we're kind of a first check that I have the team do is to log into the Hive system and just play with the controls on there. So do a system boost. See, first of all, see if the Hive connects, because maybe it's disconnected somehow and maybe the thermostat needs batteries and that's why they can't adjust the heating. And so there's a couple of little troubleshooting things that we can do remotely before, we call an engineer out to go to the property. So I really like the systems that let you log in on an app. There are a number of them. There's Hive, there's Nest, I think Inspire something or other. Inspire Home Automation does something. And there's lots of different kinds of kind of smart thermostats you can use. So I highly recommend you look at those now. Vincenzo says, I use Inspire. Yep, so he says it gives landlords a lot more control. So that's a great one to look at. I have looked at that one as well. I had considered changing, but by then I already had lots of Hives installed and I didn't want to have two systems. So definitely check out the Inspire system, because British Gas can be a little dodgy sometimes too, so it's not great. Another thing to think about, that this is a great time of year to be looking at it, because I think it's next week is Black Friday. I've actually got 3 of our most recent properties don't have Hive systems on them, because I like to wait till Black Friday to do my shopping for things like that. So I will be shopping next week. Hive normally have deals where you get quite a good discount on the systems. Most of the other providers probably will as well. So if this is something you're looking at doing for this kind of year, this winter coming up, this is a great time to just do a little bit of research as to what system will work best for you and grab a few in the Black Friday sale. You also don't need, British Gas or whoever the supplier is to install it for you. My local plumber here, my plumbing and heating engineer here in Oxford, can install the Hive system, so I don't have to pay extra for, the British Gas specialist to install it, because honestly, they were absolutely rubbish. I have had them do that in the past. They never, I think half the time they didn't turn up for the appointment, and other times they turned up, but they didn't have the equipment that they needed to actually install the Hives. So I've basically given up on having British Gas do the installation themselves. I'll just buy it without the installation and have my local engineer do that. But most of your local heating engineers can install any of the smart home thermostats. Or if you're really crafty, you can try to do it yourself, but I don't really recommend that. Yeah, so that's how we kind of monitor things, keep track of everything. We monitor on a monthly basis by doing the meter readings, and we just keep track and make sure we set their heating to a schedule every throughout the week using our remote app. And like I say, we've been doing this for about 5 years now, and we've never had any issues with our heating bills. Anytime I have seen it start to increase a little bit, a quick message to the tenants usually resolves it. And a lot of times we phrase it and just say, hey, we see that this is increasing. We just want to make sure everything's running as efficiently as possible. Can you let us know if there's any problems? Because a lot of times if there is a problem, like my tenants that were cold and just used an electric heater instead of turning the gas heating on, usually they don't want to ask you and bother you. They'll just try to fix it themselves, which is generally not the best fix. Whereas if they just told you there was a problem, you could take care of it. So we reach out to them, say, hey, is there a problem? Is there something we can fix? Otherwise, just be aware you're reaching your, fair usage limit. We'd hate to have to charge you. So let's see what we can do to work together. So hopefully you found that useful. I know a lot of people use these kinds of systems in their properties already. So yeah, let's share what you're already using and have a look around. And remember the Black Friday sales. It's an awesome time to buy them. So I am going to let you go now for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next week.